Right, so across the world, in very many continents, there exists a range of apex predators, and they assert their dominance over all other animals in their area by either beating their chests or growling and roaring. But Mother Nature's a strange old lady. And what she did was she created a whole new set of creatures that exist and go about their lives oblivious to all this jungle noise and desert shenanigans. And they remain blissfully unaware of what's going on. And rather than making sounds and beating their chest to assert their dominance, what they do is they show off their range of colours. And it's those colours there that signify one very important factor, that these creatures, they are deadly. And that if you mess with them, they're going to fuck your shit up. And I think this is one of those guys right here, right? This is an absolute beast. I just want to say, before I get started, I was meant to do this recording yesterday, but I got well on the sauce Friday night, no thanks to a couple level 10 gronks, Lisa and Tim, and they absolutely ruined me. So, damn boys. Right, anyway, that aside, big shout out to the team at RAMM. They sent me not only one deck, but 2 decks. You guys are legends. I think there's something wrong with your inventory management system. You might want to check on that. It's not a very good business model, right? But this deck here has come up a treat. Check that out. I had the entire deck marked up and measured out, and I had it sitting in a blank state for 2 days, and I would walk into the shop, take all the measurements, walk out of the shop, sit on it for a day, and then come back in and recheck before I actually started drilling anything. And you can see by the work under there, it's come up a real treat. So we've got the bindings in there, we've got the center mounted enclosure locked in nice and tight. The team at RAMM also put me in touch with the nicest gentleman, Lee Rat. You are an absolute legend. He gave me an alternate design file for the RAMM shock pads. The key difference is that these ones didn't need any support because they're printed in TPU, so they are flexible, and it saved a lot of printing time and a lot of printing material. I think he mentioned that they might be coming on Thingiverse pretty soon as well, so I'm hoping that's the case, so more people can print these off and take advantage of them. But big shout out. And they've been finished off with vicious grip tape on top, and this stuff is awesome, mate. You do not want to run your knuckles over it because you won't have any skin left. What else? So grip tape, deck, trucks. This is the new 420 wide trucks from MBS, and these are the XL Rockstar rims. So look how nice and fat these tires have come out. They are awesome, and they look super grippy, man. You have much more contact patch across the top there, so there's no slipping around on these boys. And the other added advantage of running these rims is that you can upsize to 9-inch wheels and convert this boy to like the ultimate mountain goat hill climbing machine. So that's pretty cool, right? So big shout out to Charlie and the MBS team. They actually shipped this out, all the kit out to me on Friday as soon as it dropped, and it arrived at my house on Saturday morning. These guys, they live like 50, 60 kilometers to where I'm located, and it's just great having someone so close to be able to send you all this kit really quickly. So big shout out to the MBS team. So bindings as well, they're on top. We've got a Devega there for telemetry display. So deck, shock pads, bindings, tires. More importantly, a lot of work was put in to making sure that the ESC enclosure and the motors also have a nice finish. One of the challenges I found was because the shock pads go right up to the top where the ESC enclosure, I couldn't use my regular way I would mount a deck. So what I actually did was I lifted the ESC enclosure and used skateboard bushings, glow in the dark ones mind you, to sink it down, and that's in there so solid, And what that meant was that I could do my cable routing under the ESC enclosure to give a neater finish as opposed to going around the sides like I usually do. So I learnt a lot building this deck, so I'm really grateful I had the opportunity to do a lot of this work. So thank you to the client as well for challenging me. The other thing I do want to point out, this is running the latest 78T wheel pulleys from Radium. And he advertises these as 20mm wheel pulleys, but I think he's lying because he needs to take his measurements right, because they are 22/18. And those 2mm, extra 2mm, make the world of difference when you're trying to line up your trucks, the motor mounts to the and get your pulleys lined up. Those 2mm help tremendously to add a little bit of tolerance and leeway to make sure you get everything's nice and set. They're also running the Radium motor pulleys, and it's important that you run these two alongside each other, because you'll notice that these are lipped on both sides and this does not have a lip. So in order for the belt to stay in place, you can't run like your Flip Sky with a single lip. You've got to run these guys with dual lips there. We're going to do a zoom in on those so we can see some close-ups. The battery itself, 12S 6P moly cell, standard issue. So I've redesigned the way the batteries are being put together to make them a little bit more robust. The BMS sits on top now as opposed to the front, and that gives me a lot more room just to tuck in those cables nice and neat. And it also prevents the BMS, if you forget to put foam in the front or you have a hard knock, and you get a bit of movement in there, it protects the BMS as well. And while we're talking about BMSs, the LLTs are an awesome bit of kit. So these are the ones I use. One of the things I really thought that could be improved on these units, especially in the mountain board space, is that this it's very thin, this backing, and below there's a whole bunch of circuitry. So it's kind of exposed. Sorry, I'm still recovering, Jesus. So I have sourced an alternate model of BMS. So these are Dali BMS, and you can clearly see in comparison to the LLT that these are fully enclosed, and there's a plastic rubber backing on them as well. So what it means is it's well insulated, so you can put it in on top and not have to fuss about too much about insulation and so forth. From a cost perspective, you're looking at about $150 plus for these BMSs versus, you know, whatever these go for, 60, 70, 80 bucks. So there is a big difference in those two, so I'm adjusting the prices accordingly. The other added benefit with these is their wiring looms are awesome. Bluetooth dongles are cool, but also they have UART ports on there. They can plug in huge range of accessories for display purposes as well. So watch out for that in 2023. So BMS battery, that's all there. We've gone with the orange and green colorway. Nice highlights here and there. What sucked was the Duplicolor range was really limiting. So I had to use fantail Holden, right? Ideally I would have liked a more fluoro, but for whatever reason, orange is a rare color to find in your local automotive store. Okay, so boom, boom, boom. Oh, the other thing I do want to mention is, because this running gear is all relatively new, one thing that wasn't factored in was because of the wheel pulleys are massive, right? You need massive belts to run these, and they are 475 long. They're massive. No one sells these belts currently from an e-skate perspective. So these are imported from Europe. For 3 belts, they cost $130. And I've got the invoice to prove it, right? And they're not even the best. There's actually one more level above these belts, and they are $50+ a belt. So it just goes to show that depending on the quality that you want to get to, you can spend a lot of money and get some really high-end components. And these are guaranteed for high-speed purposes, European spec, right? So they're pretty cool. Boom, 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 belts, motors, Radium, 6385, 205 kV, 16T, 78T is the setup. Now, I do want to mention that because all this kit was super new, nothing's been released. You know, these are the new trucks from MBS. So there was one, to finish everything off, there was a piece of the puzzle that was absolutely needed. And the boys at Full Send knew I was doing this build. I actually didn't even need to put a call into the boys at Full Send. They called me and they said, Mike, we've got trucks for you, here you go. And I was like, oh my God, you guys knew what I wanted and I didn't even have to ask. So a huge thank you to the boys at Full Send. We're going to zoom in on these trucks and we'll talk about them as well. And then bolting, the way they clamp on to the, not trucks, we're going to zoom in on the motor mounts and talk about the way they bolt onto the trucks as well. They are super cool, super solid, they're not going anywhere. All nylon bolts, I put a bit of Loctite on each one just in case, but they are pretty sweet. So belts, motor mounts, we got the Radium motors, Full Send motor mounts for the Matrix 3 trucks. Watch out for those, they're going to drop soon. They're freaking awesome. All the latest kit from MBS. You'll notice that the tyres, this hasn't even hit the road yet. This is fresh. I'm about to go hit the road now. It's a nice sunny day in Melbourne for a change, so I'm looking forward to getting out. If I had my time again with regards to the cable braiding, I probably wouldn't have ran it all the way up into the ESC enclosure. I probably would have terminated it just below there where the motor phase wires ends. I just found it a little bit tricky getting that up and over. I think I aged about 2 years trying to make that happen. But all up, having the pads and under pad cable routing, it just adds a new dimension. It makes it super clean, and you can see that right there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hoist the deck up. We're going to take the wheels off and we're going to zoom in and take a look at this back end and talk about the motor mounts a little bit, give them an overview. But I think I've just about covered a whole bunch of other stuff. While I'm ranting on, I do want to also say that, you know, 2023 is going to be a big year. I'm glad I can finish this year off with this awesome build. And then I am working with the boys at Flow State. You would have seen me try to do some awesome stuff with a prototype deck, which is right here. Right. So those boys are awesome, and I'm looking forward to doing more cool stuff in 2023. So testing these guys out. Hopefully get some more time to do it, but we'll see how we go. And I think in case you're wondering why that lady is crying, is because she just got a credit card statement and saw how much her husband was spending on these skate parts. I'd love to take credit for that, but I can't because that story was told to me by the boys at Flow State, so thanks. Alright, so I'm going to cut, we're going to zoom in and we're going to talk some more about motor mounts, so stay tuned. Alright, here's the money shot, folks. You get a nice good close-up of how the ESC enclosure has been raised, and those skateboard bushings are there, and it leaves nice space for that braiding to have room so it's not pressed dead up against that deck. That's been executed well, I think. I'm pretty happy with the outcome. What we can see here is on the motor mount side, what I love about these motor mounts is that they torque down on the truck from two places. So they're three-piece design. These bolts are massive. Usually when you're tensioning up screws, of like an M4 size, you can always nip it a little bit to get a little bit more tightness. But these guys, once they reach a certain position, there's no moving them ever again. That's it. There's no giving it one more nip. They're in, and that is it. So dare I say, these things will never, ever budge. And like I said, you don't even need Loctite because they're nylon nuts, but I just put a little bit on each one anyway. So having those two screws, make sure that you've got an equal distribution of force against the square truck, which is awesome by MBS. Really cool design. So Then you've got 4 screws that sit in there, and you don't need to hold them in place because you screw them in from the opposite side. So you can see that from over there, right? And they lock in nicely. You can change the angle as you need. The other thing I do want to mention is big thanks to the boys at Full Set for also sending me some bumper guards as well. So they finish off the motor mount nicely. And you know, for folks, it's a good option if you want to accessorize and try different colors and personalize your build a little bit more. You've got the option to do that with these by having different color bump guards on there. All the bolts are kick-ass, high quality stuff, right? So they look really nice, and they've come up really nice. So we're going to pan her over and zoom in on them. And again, Radium motors, full Radium running gear. And you can see the thickness of the belt there. They're massive compared to the 15 millimeters. I'm glad that we've got options now to go 20 millimeters. It just adds more strength, more bite, more tooth engagement, and they sit on those XL rims. I don't know if you can see that, but you got those nice shiny spaces in between the wheel as well. And yeah, so they sit really nice. Like I said, I haven't taken this board out, so I'm really looking forward to doing that and testing these Matrix 3 trucks out. So that's a good view. We can pan around and see it from this angle with the wheel. So because of the high torque that this beast is putting out, we're only looking at a top speed of about 55 kilometers an hour, although it's a knee snapping acceleration to that 55 kilometers an hour. So just because of that gear ratio we're looking at. So this is a really good board for off-road, hill climb, 9-inch wheels. It will be an absolute beast of a board. The motors are running 90 amps with 60 amps on the batteries. Maker X DV6 ESC in the enclosure as well. Big thank you to Maker X. You are an absolute legend. And those ESCs have been proven to be bulletproof time and time again. So huge thank you to the team at Maker X. So that's about it, right? I'm looking forward to taking the beast out, taking it for a ride. We'll do a bit of a spin. How cool do those wheels look? They look really, really nice. I was going through my drawer of random stuff, and I did manage to find these really cool. I found a green valve, and then to accessorize it a little more, I did find an orange valve over there, but I only had one of each. I've been searching for the other two, but I just couldn't get it, couldn't find them. So yeah, so that is a really cool looking complete mountain board that's going to be shipped out and picked up tomorrow, and someone's going to absolutely abuse this beast. And I hope they do, and this is the cleanest it will ever be in its entire life. I tell everybody, as soon as a build leaves my workshop, it will never ever be this clean ever again, which is kind of sucks, but at the end of the day, it's getting used and it's being enjoyed. So there you go. And I'll just... Alright, and we're back. Another thing I did want to mention was that I did have a bit of vicious grip tape left over, and I thought, these pucks always tend to fall out of my hand, so I just put some grip tape on the end of that puck as well. And look at that colour. This thing pops, man. It's crazy. Having that vicious grip tape on, put on the ends like that, so, and also that's been strengthened on the inside as well. So there's all the components are rock solid in there. That feels great. It's not going to slip out of your hand, which I really like. So yeah, all up, big thanks to everyone for helping me out to put this build together. One important thing I do want to highlight is that, you know, this deck, it's Australian made, designed. MBS, they have their office, their HQ 60 kilometers away from where I live, so it helps not having to carry a lot of inventory. I can get stuff shipped to me the next day, which is awesome. Full Send boys are local as well. They're down the road, 50, 60 k's away, and the Radium team as well. They're only down the road. So the core components of this build are all local. They're all Australian based. So I think it's something that needs to be highlighted with this build. It just goes to show that, hey, we can do cool shit over here, right? So, block out of the way. So yeah, so that's it. I'm gonna take it for a ride now and enjoy it before it gets shipped out. But look, thanks for everyone's time. Again, thank you for everybody that helped me get this build up and running. Thank you to the client for being patient and putting up with my idiosyncrasies. It was kind of like an episode of, if you remember that show Entourage, where because of all the new components, it's like, oh, we're in trouble, no, we're out of trouble, no, we're in trouble, no, we're out of trouble. It felt a bit like that trying to get this build up and running. There's so many little quirks using new components that you don't factor in. You know, belt sizes. You would have thought that you couldn't find any belts. Also, getting the bolts the right length to go through the actual wheel and be long enough to get meat on the other side to tension them up, right? So just all these little quirks, getting them together and getting them executed. Big thank you to the client for understanding all the pain and trouble that has been put into making this build complete. So again, that's it from me. I'm going to go enjoy this. I'm glad it's done. I'm going to take some time off and we'll resume cool shit in the new year, and we'll see where the road takes us, right? But thanks to everyone. Stay safe. Have a Merry Christmas and a good New Year. Adios. All right. The wheels are dirty. They were clean a moment ago. So, initial impressions. I took this thing down the road, and I think high-speed electric skateboards are overrated. And I say that because after riding this, I'm doing like 30, 35 Ks, and this thing's got punch. It is absolutely ridiculous. The amount of torque with those 78T pulleys and those motors is out of this world. This is going to be my standard setup going into 2023. No doubt about it. I'm not even going to look at 72 teeth wheel pulleys anymore. 16, 78, I'm going to keep rocking that Radium setup with 20mm belts. I don't care if they cost $130 for 3. That's the price you pay for good quality shit. And if you don't want to pay it, well then, sucks to be you. But at the end of the day, if you haven't got 5K to spend on something like this, please don't even bother an e-skate builder and try to negotiate down, because this is as premium as you can possibly get it. I am blown away. The other thing I do want to mention is it is twitchy. And I'm going to say it is twitchy because I'm going to try just maybe tighten up the bushings just a little bit. I did give them a quarter turn before I went out because I did see they were loose, but also going to point out that they're on the inside, right? So if you are finding that you don't like that twitchiness, I don't mind it. It kind of puts some fear into the rider, right? Keeps you awake. But if you don't like that and you want more stability, you can go out a level, and that's going to give you a bit more comfort. So if you are starting out on the Matrix 3 trucks, you know, and you're starting out in e-skate, my advice would be to start out on the outermost position to give you more stability. But if you want to live on the wild side, go on the inside, because this thing will turn on a dime. So even though these trucks are the longer trucks, you can turn on a 5-cent piece. They are freaking awesome. I'm bummed I have to give them away because I think Monday I'll be ordering a new set for myself for my own build in 2023, update my own boards. I love them. I just can't believe the rideability and the level of adjustability they have is awesome. I'm looking forward to spending more time with them. It's a shame I have to get rid of this bad boy tomorrow because I want to ride it more. It is freaking awesome. I love it. So yeah, that was just an initial impression of me going down the road, cruising at about 30 kilometers an hour. I hope this thing is turned off. Maybe I'll pull the loop key out. Oh yeah. Can I show off my little light, my little LED light? Right, how cool is that? Pull the loop key out. I don't want it rolling off my desk, accidentally bumping the throttle. It was on. That's dangerous. Now, so yeah, I'm looking forward to building out my own e-skate with these MBS components and Radium motors as well. I'm stoked. I'm absolutely blown away with the just the level of performance. I was saying 30 kilometers an hour cruising, and with this gear ratio, I didn't like if you touch it, it just wants to freaking go. That's it. It doesn't care. I think you can load this thing up with 150 kilos, and it's just gonna keep talking away. It is freaking awesome. So if you're after a high torque board with good performance, copy this setup. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just replicate this exact freaking setup and screw high speeds. I mean, low speed and ability to turn is where the enjoyment is for me when I build a mountain board. I don't want to go fast. 50, 55 kilometers is perfectly fine for me. I'm not a high-speed junkie. I want the ability to have high torque, take it out on a BMX track or out off-road, do some hill climbs out where I am, and this thing is the freaking sweet spot. Can I keep it? I don't know. Maybe I'll ask. We'll see what happens. But yeah, initial impressions. Keep in mind the adjustability of the trucks. If you're starting out, start in the further position. And if you want to live on the wild side, keep them on the inside, loosen them up a bit and make it super twitchy. But yeah, so I ran into a core. Usually if there's someone on a Nazir, they have to get off, lift it and turn it. There's no doing that with this thing. You lean and this thing is taking corners freely. It's awesome. Okay, I've got to give it away. Sorry, but I'll catch you later. Okay, bye. Okay, doc, so I'm at a standstill. I've got the Devega. There's too much sun glare, right? So I don't really have a good gauge of what the speed is. But anyway, I'm going to take off. And straight up, I can tell you now, I'm doing 20 kilometers and I've started the incline and like nothing. I'm not going to film down, I'm going to look up. I'm not full throttling like I did on a previous build where I had the 72 teeth wheel pulley. So I've come to a slow right down, took that corner, I was nearly 180. This is full throttle now, and I got it up to 22 kilometers an hour. This is another 180 degree turn, and that was just like nothing. It just turns so easy. It is like butter turning this thing. It is freaking awesome. And not even full throttle, it just wants to pull away. It is nuts. So this is the last corner, and look at that. No stress, no nothing. That's where I've come from, right? Look at that. Like nothing. It just climbed it. Like, was there a hill there? I was like, nah, there was no hill there. It just did the whole bloody thing without no hesitation. That's how steep it is, and that goes all the way down. I'm gonna run across, see if I can capture the valley, jump over some bushes. There you go. Look how steep that is. That is nuts. That's a huge valley down there. So yeah, cop that, right? This thing is a absolute tractor of a machine. There is no stopping it. Hopefully no one steals it. You know, we are in the western suburbs, so anything can happen. But look at this. Here we are. Look at this freaking creature. It is awesome. I'm in love. Come here. Oh, good girl. Good girl. Come here. Oh, good girl. Good girl. Good girl.